If you're looking to get your career started in an entry-level cybersecurity job and you're wondering what the best path is for you to get started, by the end of this video, you should walk away having a good fundamental understanding of what you need to do to get started in an entry-level cybersecurity job. If you feel like you're already familiar with the concepts that we're covering in this video, I have provided the timestamps here on the screen so you can skip around to the section that you think you need to go to help you further your career. So with that being said, let's go through a quick rundown of what we're going to be covering in this video. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is what is cybersecurity. Then we'll talk about the cybersecurity job roles and descriptions. Then we're going to jump over to what the requirements are to start working in cybersecurity. And then we'll talk about some of the key concepts, technologies, methodologies, and things that you need to know along those lines. We'll also go and talk about not every cybersecurity job requires a detailed level of technology experience. So once we've talked about all those things, we'll jump over and talk about, so how do we actually get an entry-level cybersecurity job? And then we're going to talk about how much do entry-level cybersecurity jobs pay? And lastly, we'll talk about the best places that you can go to learn more about cybersecurity and hopefully get your career kickstarted. Now, a lot of people come to this channel and say, Zach, I want to work in cybersecurity. What do I need to do to get started? And ultimately, that's kind of a loaded question because first, you need to understand what cybersecurity is. So what we're going to do is kind of break down where cybersecurity typically falls in the technology stack, if you will. So let's break into this really quick. Typically, when we look at the IT world, right, you have entry-level IT roles like help desk roles and technician roles. Those are typically the starting points in IT. Those roles kind of introduce you to many of the different fundamental technologies that you'll see in the real world of IT. And once you kind of get experience in these entry-level IT roles, then you kind of start to figure out where you can pivot. And oftentimes, pivoting leads to going into like network administration or system administration, and sometimes even cybersecurity. Now, this is often referred to as like a typical kind of pivoting that you would see working in the world of information technology. Now, I say that is often what you see, but in reality, there is no set path into any specific role in the world of information technology. You can go out and pool 100 different people and you can ask them, how did you get started in IT? And you would get 100 different answers. And the same could be said for any specific role that falls under the world of IT. So if it's a cybersecurity role, you could go and ask 100 different penetration testers, how did you get started as a penetration tester? And you'll get 100 different answers on the path that they took to get into that specific role. And that's kind of one of the most unique things about the world of information technology. So again, this is kind of what that typical stack looks like. Now keep in mind, of course, there are many different job roles out in the information technology world, and that is especially true for cybersecurity. Now, you could be a developer and you're really into programming. You could be into governance and risk and compliance, GRC. You could be into sales. Now, these are all different areas that have cybersecurity roles that fall under them, and they're not all typically technology focused. And that's something that is really important to note. I just wanted to kind of provide a general overview of where you may find cybersecurity falling in the world of information technology. Typically, you're going to see many roles before you would see some type of cybersecurity role. The best way to describe this, the best way to kind of lay this out for you is that there are roles that typically come before a cybersecurity role. Now, again, that's not always the case, but typically that is what you would see because in the grand scheme, when you look at how this is broken down, cybersecurity is securing in many aspects your infrastructure, whether that's going to be your hardware, your servers, your physical infrastructure, your code, your programs, your applications, right? Security falls at a much higher level in the grand scheme of the rest of the world of information technology. Because typically in a cybersecurity role, you have to have a good fundamental understanding of the technologies that you are supporting. So understanding how you are going to secure or protect or exploit specific devices or technology within the information technology field. And many times that requires a certain level of experience. many times. And to be completely blunt and honest with you, there are many things to understand about the entire world of information technology, including cybersecurity, that really kind of help lay out the fundamentals. So overall, in the grand scheme, when we're looking at information technology, you have your kind of entry-level starting point, and you have kind of your steps that you typically would see people take to advance their careers in information technology. Now, again, keep in mind, there are many different roles that fall under information technology, and specifically falling under cybersecurity. You're going to see many different job roles once you start searching. So typically what you're going to find with cybersecurity roles is that they are going to require a certain level of technology experience. Now, not all of the roles under cybersecurity are going to require technology experience, but most of what you're going to find is definitely going to be asking for some level of technology experience or knowledge. Before you get too upset, we're going to be talking about that further in another section. So if you want to skip to that section, it's going to be posted in the timestamps on the screen right now. So go to that if you want. Going back to the original question, what is cybersecurity? Well, we really need to have an understanding of what it is that we're securing, which that falls into what are the job roles and descriptions, because that's really going to kind of give us the best understanding of what cybersecurity is. In general, in the world of information technology, the job titles, the actual job title itself, they are very skewed. They are very misleading, if you will. And sometimes the job descriptions can be misleading as well, because they don't exactly match what that job title is if we're looking at job titles for their pure definition. Now, this is the case across the entire information technology field, and it's even that case when we talk about the specific roles within cybersecurity. We need to understand, first of all, that there are a ton of different cybersecurity job roles or job titles. So what we need to do is understand what are these different job roles and job titles. And the best thing that we can do for that is go out on Indeed.com, go out on LinkedIn.com, Monster.com, Dice.com, any job searching site. Search for those specific job titles and look at those job descriptions. Those job descriptions are going to give us the best idea of what it is that that specific role entails, what it is that role does on a day-to-day basis, the technologies that they need to know, the methodologies they need to understand, and of course, what other requirements they're going to be asking for. Now, this is an experiment that you can do on your own right now. You just go out on Indeed.com, pick one of these job roles or job titles, and search for it. You're going to find multiple results for many of these. It might take you a little bit of time, but you're going to find multiple job roles with that same title. Look at those job descriptions. I can almost guarantee you with like a 99% accuracy that those job descriptions are more than likely going to be completely different than one another. They're going to have the same exact job title, but oftentimes those job descriptions, they are so telling in what that job actually does. And the best way that I can kind of give a comparison before even getting into cybersecurity is oftentimes you're going to see network administrator positions posted, and they are all going to have that job title, that job role of network administrator. But once you start looking at those job descriptions, they really start to paint a completely different picture for you. Typically, a network administrator, well, there you should be handling a lot of that network infrastructure, handling the switches and the way traffic flows and firewalls and different things like that, just for a brief example. But sometimes, or oftentimes, especially with network administrators, you're going to find that they're doing actually more server administrator type of duties and might be on top of network administrator duties. But the point of this is you really have to pay attention to those job descriptions, because again, that is the most important way to really understand what it is that you need to be learning to get your foot into cybersecurity. And I say this because not only are the job titles misleading, right? And as an industry, we could do a better job, right, of fixing these job titles and making them more accurate and not putting an entry-level job that requires experience, right? Like these are all the valid complaints that we get, but we're just the players, right? We can complain about the fact that entry-level jobs should not require experience, right? We can all agree upon that to an extent, which we'll get to. But we are the players in this game. And ultimately, we're going to be complaining to deaf ears because we're just trying to get into this world of cybersecurity. So Our complaints, they're nothing, right? So once you actually step foot into the world of information technology and you are in the world of cybersecurity, remember what it took for you to get to where you're at. And maybe it's you that can help make that change down the road. And there are actually employers out there who have true entry-level cybersecurity jobs who don't require years of experience. It's shocking, I know, but honestly, those are few and far between. Again, you can spend all day. You could spend weeks going on Indeed and LinkedIn and Dice and Monster and looking up these different job roles and descriptions, and you're going to have a very nice picture painted for you. So what I'm going to do is provide you guys a worksheet here that can really help you guys kind of go through some of these different job descriptions and start highlighting what job roles or job titles you feel like match you the most. So your homework is going to be going out and researching these different job roles, understanding what they do. You could take the time to notate some of the different job responsibilities that they have. Take the time to note, the different technologies that these employers are asking for, the different methodologies they might be requiring. And then of course, what other hard requirements do they have? And we'll get to that here in a little bit as well, because many jobs have hard requirements, especially in the world of cybersecurity. So before we get there, not only are these job titles misleading, and there's not much that we can do about that right now where we're at, because we're just the players and we can just hate the game, right? Like that's literally all that we can do right now. The marketing behind cybersecurity jobs, specifically entry-level cybersecurity jobs, is just absolutely terrible. And when I say marketing, I'm looking at you, colleges and boot camps out there, because oftentimes you're going to see that there are boot camps or colleges that have cybersecurity programs. But if we go back to what is cybersecurity, well, we don't ultimately have a good understanding of what cybersecurity is, because cybersecurity is a broad term. It's not a focused term. It's not typically something that you're going to find a cybersecurity job role. That's that role. Like your role is entry-level cybersecurity. No, that's not how that works. You won't really find that. Under cybersecurity, there are specific job roles, job titles that you're going to find. So saying that you want to work in cybersecurity is great, but what part of cybersecurity do you want to work in? And going back to these colleges and boot camps, what are you actually focusing in? What type of job are they going to help you get? And you really, again, have to dive into their curriculum. So look at their curriculum and the things that they're going to be teaching you, and look at the job roles and descriptions and see how they line up. Are their programs actually teaching you the technologies and concepts that you actually see on real world job roles and descriptions? That is the best way to kind of figure out what it is that you need to do to be putting these pieces together. So when we get to our worksheet, we can put on there, these job roles are looking for these technologies, and their requirements also say, hey, we want you to have a bachelor's degree, or we want you to have an associate's degree, or you need to have a secret clearance. Oftentimes, you are going to see that across many of these job descriptions. And I can tell you from personal experience, when we were hiring a penetration tester at TCM Security, every single person who applied for the job had a degree. Now, we didn't require you have a degree, but every single person that applied had a degree. And oftentimes, again, when you're going through and looking at these different job roles and descriptions out there on these job boards, notate, do they require a degree? And honestly, a majority of the time you're going to find that those jobs require a degree, even if it's entry level. So if you don't have a degree, it might be a little bit more difficult for you to step foot into the world of cybersecurity initially. So I kind of got ahead of myself in talking about the degrees, but this is going to be a long video and there's really a lot to cover. So now that we kind of have this understanding of these job roles and descriptions, and we're building out our worksheet so that we can really kind of have that good understanding of what these jobs are looking for. Again, like what technologies they're looking for, what hard requirements they have. Once we build out this worksheet, we can start identifying where it is that we need to kind of focus our efforts. So what are some of the requirements that you're going to find on these job descriptions or some of these job roles within cybersecurity, even entry level, right? Degree. We talked about the degree. That's honestly going to be a hard requirement oftentimes in cybersecurity roles. And again, that's just from me taking the time looking out on Indeed and LinkedIn and Dice and seeing what hard requirements that they had for many of these roles. And that was just one of them. Are there some cybersecurity jobs out there that don't require a degree? Yes, but again, few and far between. And the next thing is certifications. A lot of the times I see requirements for CompTIA certifications, specifically the CompTIA Security Plus certification. And then otherwise, security certifications are going to be very specific to those job roles. Say, for instance, it's a penetration tester role. They might have a requirement for the CompTIA Pen Test Plus certification. Doubtful, but they might, and that's just the example that we're using. They might say that, hey, we want the OSCP or we want the PNPT certification. And that again is going to fall to that very specific job description. But oftentimes when you look at some of the more entry-level cybersecurity roles, it's going to be asking for degrees and CompTIA Security Plus certification. So again, those are things to take note of. And of course, one of the biggest requirements that you're going to see when it comes to entry-level cybersecurity roles is experience. And you're like, why does an entry-level cybersecurity role require experience? And that kind of actually, we could take that back to the first question that we talked about. What is cybersecurity? And unfortunately, again, this goes to us saying, hey, we're just the players in this game, right? Like we're gonna hate on this game a lot, but we're the players and there's not much that we can do because we can't dictate how job postings look and these descriptions look, the titles look, and what requirements specific jobs are asking for. And I put out on LinkedIn and asked questions about why do entry-level jobs require experience? And I got a lot of great results from that. So I'm going to make sure that I provide a link to that in the description below so you guys can go and check out that thread on LinkedIn because I think it has a lot of value specifically to what we're talking about in today's video. Cybersecurity, again, it falls at a higher level oftentimes. You often have to have that good fundamental understanding of the different technologies and concepts that you are helping secure. So when you see entry-level cybersecurity job roles requiring experience, oftentimes when you look into the details of those job descriptions, they're going to say, hey, well, we don't really require you have experience in security. We require that you have experience in IT. Again, because it falls back to, hey, you should have a good fundamental understanding of these technologies that you're helping secure or exploit. And again, keep in mind, that's not always the case, but typically this is how most people and most organizations see and represent entry-level cybersecurity roles. And again, we can go out on all the different job posting sites to kind of back up everything that we're saying here in this video. That's just what's out there. We can hate on it and disagree with it all we want. And I'm not trying to be a gatekeeper. I'm just looking at some of the facts out here. You can go on tech Twitter and you can hear from all the successful people who started in cybersecurity with, 2 days of experience in a boot camp and started making $100,000 a year. But if you're that person who's looking at tech Twitter and believing that, I'm sorry for you. That's not reality typically. You may find a lot of people who've had success jumping into cybersecurity, but oftentimes it's not because of their experience and their certifications. It's because of who they are and who they know. Some people just sell themselves better than other people, and some people have really good friends. Some people are just really good at networking, and we'll talk about all of those in a little bit. And yet again, this is another one that falls back to failed marketing on boot camps and colleges because they do no justice for really kind of identifying what it is that they're going to be teaching you that's going to apply to the real world and the expectations of said real world. So to just sum up again, this experience portion of it, oftentimes you're going to find that entry-level cybersecurity jobs require experience. Oftentimes they're going to require experience in just general IT. But, there's going to be like a few jobs out there that don't have any experience requirements. Again, those are so few and far between. That's just reality. And if you want to get out on LinkedIn, you can follow me. You can follow this list of people right here that I'm going to put on the screen. They are always posting entry-level cybersecurity jobs that have very minimal requirements, sometimes no cybersecurity experience required. So make sure you get on LinkedIn and follow those people because that's the best way that you're going to find those jobs. So make sure in your worksheet you put if that job requires experience in IT or cybersecurity, or maybe no experience at all. And I kind of touched on this earlier, but oftentimes times with cybersecurity jobs, specifically in the United States, you're going to find that they require a security clearance. So that's something that you might have to look into as well. That's not something that's often talked about when you are trying to navigate your way into the cybersecurity field. But again, this goes back to please look at the job descriptions because they're really going to help you out. Other tools, technologies, and methodologies that you can understand to really kind of help you build some of the fundamentals for cybersecurity are going to be some of these. Typically, when it comes to cybersecurity, you're going to be doing a lot of critical thinking and multitasking and thinking outside the box. And all of these somehow come together and form this magical kind of understanding of how a hacker thinks, if you will. And this isn't exactly a hard requirement to work in cybersecurity, but having that kind of thought process to understand that you can look at different technologies, scripts, programs, applications, computers, and devices, and think about how can I make this work in a way that it's not intended to work. That's kind of a key indicator that you have some of the thought process and critical thinking and like just methodologies to work in the world of cybersecurity. Now, again, that's not a hard requirement, and that's stuff that you can learn along the way. But now that I mentioned it, that's something you need to understand. That's something you need to start building a thought process around. How can I think outside the box? How do I make these things work in the ways they're not intended to work? How do I think like a hacker? And part of that is questioning everything. In the world of cybersecurity, question all of the things. Nothing is safe. Zero trust. I mean, that sounds kind of scary when I say that, but honestly, when it comes to cybersecurity, you need to have your guard up and you need to question all of the things. So on top of the critical thinking and the multitasking and thinking outside of the box, question all of the things. Once you have a fundamental understanding of some of the technology concepts within IT and you're working in the world of cybersecurity or trying to step foot into this world of cybersecurity, you often have to analyze and discover and find solutions to the problems and issues and things that you're facing out in the world of IT or in the world of cybersecurity. Once you analyze the technologies and policies and users, you can start to discover vulnerabilities that the different policies or applications and programs or even your end users might have. And then you find solutions on how to resolve these. So that's kind of breaking down some of the key concepts and methodologies within cybersecurity. I know that there's going to be many other suggestions, so if you have them, please throw them in the comments below. This is all about learning and helping other people. So if you have suggestions on the different tools, tech, or methodologies, please put it in the comments below and help other people who are trying to navigate their way into the cybersecurity field. So with that, we'll talk about some of the fundamental technologies that you can have an understanding of getting into cybersecurity. Now, again, depending on the role, this isn't always the case, but all in all, when you look across the world of cybersecurity, some of these can have a very big benefit to just helping you out and progressing many different aspects of your career, specifically as they relate to cybersecurity. The first thing that we want to start off with is Linux. Having a good understanding of Linux is going to be very beneficial for you in the world of cybersecurity. There are so many different technologies that run on Linux. There are more servers out there that run Linux than Windows. Somebody did an analysis on that. It's kind of crazy when you think about it. When you start looking at some of the different IoT devices and smart devices, a lot of these are running on Linux. So again, having kind of a good understanding of this can be helpful for you. It's not a requirement, but it can be helpful. Networking. I don't care if you're a developer or you want to be a SOC analyst, a penetration tester, or you want to work in GRC. Having a good understanding of how networking works, I mean, that's just always helpful when it comes to the world of IT. So understand the OSI model. That's a great start. Understand IP addressing, subnetting. Those are just great fundamental concepts that I think everybody should learn. And of course, there's scripting, things like PowerShell, Python, Bash. These are all things that are going to be helpful for you in cybersecurity as well. There are so many different things being automated nowadays. Having a good understanding of how these scripting languages work are definitely going to be very beneficial for you. And that's simply because if you look at the job descriptions, many of them are going to require Python at the very least. But there are so many different scripts out there that help you automate so many different things in the world of cybersecurity. Just having an understanding of these languages, the fundamentals of them, are always going to be very, very beneficial for you. Of course, if you want to be a developer, those scripting languages could be helpful, but you'll probably want to learn things like Java, maybe PHP. Definitely, if you haven't yet, learn HTML. Not that that's a programming language, so don't yell at me, nerds. Those can be helpful for you as well, because those are some of the most widely used languages out there. And of course, somebody's going to chime in and be like, well, there's Ruby and there's Go and there's like C++ and C Sharp. And like, there's so many different programming languages out there. But most people are probably going to be like, hey, go learn Java or JavaScript, because I don't know, everybody uses that nowadays, it seems like. So in the world of cybersecurity, if you're looking to be a developer, those are probably some of the languages that you probably want to take a look at. And then of course, tying all of these together is the cloud, because the cloud is everywhere. And if you want to work in cybersecurity, oftentimes you're going to be facing things in the cloud. So learning key concepts, methodologies, and understanding about the cloud is also going to be very beneficial to you, because everything is in the cloud nowadays, from your applications and programs to your networks in the cloud, your computers in the cloud, your data is in the cloud, of course, right? There's always something as a service. And if you see something as a service, you can pretty much guarantee that that is a cloud-based service. So understanding, hey, the cloud is out there, it's everywhere, and is literally being used in so many different avenues of the world of information technology, including cybersecurity, it's going to be helpful for you. Now, I'm not saying, hey, you need to go out and become an Azure administrator by any means, but hey, you can sign up for Azure for free or AWS for free, and you can start learning the fundamentals of those different cloud-based services. And I say Azure and AWS specifically because those are the most widely used platforms that are out there when it comes to cloud service providers. So go sign up for those for free, learn the fundamentals of them. It's going to be helpful for you. And while you're at it, you can learn scripting and learn networking and Linux. You can learn all of those things by just signing up for a free cloud trial. So check that out. Make sure that when you're done using a server that you turn it off or even delete it, but make sure that it's not running so you don't get charged anything extra. Now, many people are going to argue you don't need to know all of those different things that I just covered, and they're going to be right. You don't need to know any of these things. You don't need to know Linux and Python or Bash or even the cloud, right? You don't need to know them, but they are always going to be helpful for you. Not every job is going to require them. Again, this is going to fall back to you doing your due diligence and looking up the different job roles and titles that interest you specifically. If you have confusion about some of the different job roles and titles, please go out on YouTube and search for a day in the life of a penetration tester. And for example, I'm going to give you this video from Heath Adams, who breaks down what a penetration tester does at TCM Security. There are many other videos out there like this. So again, look up a day in the life of a web application penetration tester. Look up the life of a bug bounty hunter. Find the job role that fits you and what you're looking to do, and see if there's a blog or a video out there that walks you through some of the things that they do on a day-to-day basis. So I hope that talking about some of these different technologies and methodologies, concepts, and requirements that you often are going to see has been helpful so far, because now we need to discuss the fact that not every single cybersecurity job requires technology experience, which we touched on a little bit already, but it's very important to know, because I know people are going to chime in and be like, well, I started working in a cybersecurity job and I had absolutely no experience working in IT. And that could be the case sometimes, but oftentimes we need to understand that when we see people out there who are pivoting into the world of cybersecurity, they may have past life experience working in enterprise environments, whether that's working in like an accounting position, a data analyst position, a sales position, a customer support position, it does not matter. Having previous real world working experience in enterprise types of environments, business environments, can be very helpful for you pivoting into the world of cybersecurity. And not many people understand that. So some of the roles that you may not specifically need IT experience for would be something like sales or GRC, that's governance, risk, compliance, because, you know, dealing with policies and stuff all day, that sounds like a lot of fun. Sorry, Jerry. And then of course, like developers, building applications and things like that. And it could be argued that there are definitely some technologies that you should know getting into those roles, which I would agree with, but sometimes it's not going to be specifically focused in the world of information technology. So being some type of developer or programmer, you may not have to have previous IT experience to be stepping foot into a cybersecurity focused developer or programmer role. We talked about the roles, we talked about the requirements, the experience, the things that you need to be doing and learning. how do you get started in an entry-level cybersecurity job? Well, we know that oftentimes we're going to need a degree, we're going to need experience. Few and far between, we're going to find jobs that don't really have a hard requirement on those things. So it oftentimes falls back to, it's not what you know, it's who you know, right? It's always going to go back to networking. Networking is really the biggest tool that you have to your disposal, and it's free because you can get out on LinkedIn and you can go to local meetups and conferences and connect with people in the world of cybersecurity, meaning you're connecting with people who share the same interests. So you start networking with these people, you start building conversations with them and talk about the things that they're interested in and learn from them. Get out on LinkedIn and be part of the community. I've talked about this so many times, but it is so extremely vital to you and the success of your career, especially in 2022 and going forward. Please get out on LinkedIn and other social platforms and start becoming a member of the different communities that are out there. Get on Discord servers and start sharing your experiences and helping people and maybe asking for help yourself. There are amazing communities of people out there who want to help you get into the world of cybersecurity. You never know the connections that you can build that will ultimately help you excel your career. And I say this because I promise you, the moment that you apply for a job and you're even being considered for an interview, they are looking you up all over the internet, especially on social media, and seeing and learning more about you. So building the best personal brand, the best presence for yourself out there that you can is always going to be very helpful. So please get out on LinkedIn, start connecting with people in the cybersecurity community, start finding people in the specific jobs that you want to be working in and connect with them, learn from them, be part of the conversation, start creating your own conversation, document and show the things that you're doing, create videos, create blogs, get out there so people can see you and what you're capable of doing. I know that you may not want to do that because you might be somewhat like me and be a little bit of an introvert and you're like, I don't think I could do anything like that, but it's going to be helpful for you. So try the best that you can and do what you can, because in this world that we live in now, it's going to be helpful. That's all I can say. Like, it's going to be helpful. People love to come to this channel and ask me, how much can I make working in an entry-level cybersecurity role? And that's a loaded question because I don't know where you live. And that's a huge indicator that can help you ultimately determine how much you're going to make. So I can't give you the exact answer, but I can give you the tools and resources to help you find out. So CompTIA has a salary calculator. I'll put it over here on the screen. You can get it in the links in the description below. Go to the salary calculator, put in your area, put in the job role. It can help you get a general idea of what some of the different job roles in your area pay. And then of course, when you find some of the different job roles and descriptions that you've hopefully saved and notated in your worksheet, go out on Glassdoor.com, put that organization in your search and see if their jobs show up on Glassdoor, because you can go to that specific job and find out what they're paying if they don't have it listed in the job description on Indeed or LinkedIn. But honestly, I can't tell you exactly what the jobs are going to pay. It's going to be very dependent on where you live. It's going to be very dependent on that actual organization. And of course, it's going to be very dependent on the actual job description itself. So make sure you take the time, Glassdoor.com, go to the CompTIA salary calculator, links are in the description below. You can search these day or night, anytime, and you can get a general understanding of what some of these jobs are paying. So take the time and go out and do that, and you'll have your answer. So now that we've covered all of the things here, how do you start learning these things? Now, you may have already signed up for a boot camp or a college, and unfortunately, I'm sorry that I have to say this, many of the times you're not gonna get all the information that you need to really help you be successful. And this is even the case if you just decide that you wanna go down the certification route, and you're only gonna get certifications to help you get into the IT world. Don't use just one single education resource. Use multiple resources. There are amazing free YouTube channels out there that can teach you about CompTIA Security Plus. Professor Messer is the guy for that. So make sure you check out Professor Messer. You can watch his entire video series for the CompTIA Security Plus, and it is worth every penny, which is free. And of course, if you decide that you want to be a penetration tester, the best place that you can go to is TCM Security. The link is in the description for them as well. We have the Practical Ethical Hacking course. We have Linux 101. We have Python 101. We have a lot of great fundamental fundamental courses over there to help you learn and understand the concepts and methodologies, the tools behind becoming an ethical hacker. So check that out if that's something that you're interested in. If you want to learn more about GRC, governance, risk, compliance, definitely check out Jerry Auger's course for GRC. It's pay as you go. So go to the link in the description now before that changes. And then of course, for any other cybersecurity related things, I always suggest IT Pro TV. You can learn more about CompTIA certifications, Microsoft certifications, and Cisco certifications, even all of their security focused certifications as well. So check out the link in the description for that. That's all we really got for this video. I hope we kind of broke this down a little bit further. I'm just following up on a video that I put out for the same thing back in like 2018. If you want to check out that video, it's almost the same thing, but this one is hopefully a little bit better. If you have your own suggestions, I would highly suggest that you leave them in the comments below, because this is all about helping people. I don't have all the answers, and maybe you do. So leave your suggestions, because it's helpful for people out there who are trying to step foot into the world of cybersecurity. Before we leave, summing everything up, I think we can pretty much say that a lot of IT is misleading in many ways, but ultimately the job descriptions are going to give you every bit of information that you need to know to step foot into the world of cybersecurity, because those tell you exactly the tools, the methodologies, the skills, and of course, requirements that you need to step foot into this world of security. So I hope this video is helpful for you. If you have any comments, suggestions, concerns, throw them in the comments below. That's all I got. As always, take it easy.